Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Do hope you're all doing well. Let me go ahead and just hide this here. By the way, you can actually support the channel, my own channel, and purchase this print. It is available through Redbubble, so, you know, that's a bit of shilling there, so we'll get past that. I do hope you're all well. Okay. It does feel, it's strange actually, it does feel like a while since I've played this particular campaign. In reality, it hasn't been, but for some reason it just feels that way, so I'm not entirely sure as to why. But we're going to go ahead and take a roundup of what we have done here so far in the turn. Now, I've had quite a few battles over here, didn't we? Did hold. Were they all individual divisions there? So 352nd, 46. 46 again. Or is that... Okay, so we had what appears to be about 5 or so divisions that had attacked that one spot there, so that's pretty interesting. How you doing there, Hugh? Ah, yeah. How you doing there, Vulcan? Oh, you've got one of these two now, haven't you, Vulcan? Yeah, that's pretty awesome, actually. I do look forward to when they bring out the first DLC, be interested to see what that looks like. Okay. So as for our own actions... Oh, this was the one over here where I was considering places some additional forces over here, because we had gone from level 3-4 down to 2. We still held well, but the first attack was a little worrying, but I think we had a poor roll, which does make sense, because we do need an army out here. We don't have an army. We have a core command that goes up to the army group north over there, which is not exactly ideal. They did do well, but losing the fort, but having that bad roll there, otherwise they would have done fine here. They did have quite a bit of support there, didn't they? Okay. Hey, didn't Sarge? Good to have you, my man. Oh, do let me know if the audio is too loud, or if I should be myself louder. I had a comment actually regarding my own microphone volume, so do let me know. Do let me know. We do have about 1.5 hours, so we do have some time here. We're already a little bit through the actual turn, which is very helpful. Now, we had counter-attack over here. Held pretty well. See, we still only have a level 2 fort over here. You can see they did have a fair amount of air power. We lost 2 of our own aircraft, we shot down 18 fighters and 35 bombers there, which is pretty handy. Yeah, this is pretty good over here. You can see that they do have a number of divisions here. The thing, I had a quick look before the actual stream here. We do have a huge abundance of cores over here. There's only actually 1 division or so that I can see. Well, we have a couple of divisions here and there. Like we have the 116 for the 8th Guards Airborne there in Leningrad proper, that are not in the fortress. But over here we do have a group. You know, we do have 2 cores, the 2nd and the 6th. Over here, which is the best spot to really attack due to the actual terrain there. We have the 13th Guard and the 9th Guard Rifle Corps. Here in the Heavy Woods we have the... Oh, there's the other 198th Division. Yep, that's the other division. The 11th Guard and the 2nd Guard's Cavalry. 3rd Rifle, 28th Guard's Rifle Corps. And then the 7th Guard's Rifle Corps, and the 6th Stalin. I can only assume that to be Volunteer Rifle Corps. Sounds pretty good? That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these of like, I used to have the microphone closer. And over the last few episodes I've had it a little bit further away. Now I've actually brought it a little bit closer. So hopefully that should be good. Because I don't have it in front of me. Well, I do have it in front of me. I have it above me now, if that makes sense. It's just finding that good spot now. I mean, in fairness, what we have is we have fighters just responding. The weather doesn't particularly help them out too well. But it's one of those, I suppose, well, it's the fact that the fighters are escorting the Soviet bombers. So you can imagine, very much like War in the Pacific, if you have your own air power going in there without having to escort something, and they're just essentially just responding on a cap, or they're on a sweep. They're going to be more effective than when they have to escort something. So that is usually why you'll have numbers like that, really. Okay. I believe as well experience. We do have fairly good pilots, at least this moment in time. Okay. Now, there are some areas of concern. This one over here, only having the 32 is not particularly great. I'm trying to build up the actual swamp over here, and it does say a lot that you have a level 3 fort here in Light Woods, but yet you have a division. Now, granted, this one has 71 and 21 in the way of fatigue, and this is 100 and 0. It's only 9k though. Whereas this one is not that great either. But yeah, the natural terrain does make a pretty dramatic difference. Yeah, to be fair, I'd only recommend... Well, I could only but recommend reading probably on the air wall. It's something I'm a little bit curious about myself, really. Okay. We are trying to build up an assault corps out this way. We were pushed out from here to Pushkin, which wasn't exactly ideal. We did come under attack over here as well from Kronstadt, so there's not too much in the way of forces I can essentially... that I can easily move out of the area here. It will become easy when I do have another army here in the north. We'd really need another 2 armies out here in the north to have everything properly coordinated, but we have to go with what we can get there, really. Okay. I do have these 2 divisions over here, the 290th and the 122nd. They're in a pretty good position here. Yeah, I really need to be able to move back into the heavy woods and into the swamp over here. Positions like this are ultimately going to fail. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here then is use a little bit of the administration points over here. Now currently I have 0, I'm going to have a limit of 40. It is going to cost me, but I'm going to have them actually deployed over here. The reason is I want to have them begin to dig in these positions when I'm naturally going to have to fall back into. Potentially one day, that is. I'm not going to place too many, but I want to have them in the positions where it's naturally better to fall back into. So I think essentially what's going to happen is when we do have the winter begin to fall, I will have the SS Panzer Corps come up over here alongside the assault corps that we're trying to build, and have them push to the north to Novaya Ladoga and to Sayastroy. I don't know how you want to pronounce that, but essentially up this way. And put the roads on, actually. And I think what I would go ahead and do then to just further facilitate that is I probably would fall back where I could. Like, so for example, over here in the Light Woods, I'd likely fall back to the swamp, and over here back to the swamp. In places like that, the reason being where it doesn't make a tremendous difference, I would fall back, and ideally fall back into forts that have been built up by that time. But the idea would be that I'm going to have forces pushing north towards Volkov, to the north towards whatever, what was it called again? Sayastroy. So I wouldn't have reserves, I wouldn't have support for the forces that are on the line. So I would want to have them be secure there. There we go. Oh, you give me shit that Arthur. Indeed. Okay. Now I would like to reinforce our position there. How are we doing in terms of guns here? 127, 136. These guys do have that manpower though. Do have that. Okay. And this position over here is going to also have a fortified zone. Generally, fortified zones in this area here is not a bad idea. When it comes to Novgorod, I could spend another 12, perhaps, here. This position's pretty good. Actually, no, to be fair, these positions are good. Lightwood, so only here is where I need one then. That's fine. It may be worthwhile to build one up over in Novgorod, due to it being a city, but we do have a level 2. It could be worthwhile to maintain that, in fairness, the fortification level, but it's using administration points. I don't have a huge amount of them, and it does cost us manpower. Now, thankfully, I do have at least some manpower to work with, but I don't want to just spend it willy-nilly there, really. So we'll go with that. So, 38, we're in Lightwoods there. Yeah, Lightwoods is a bit of a worrisome prospect. I had the Jaegers that were committed over here to boost their strength there. I mean, I can do it over here. We have 3 positions that would require additional support to really bring them up. That's a full core. Oops. That's also more or less a full core. That one could handle additional men though, which is pretty good. So what I'm going to go ahead and do then is take them from that core and move them into this one here. Takes us up to 4 divisions there. One more would take it over. But it does mean I can have these 2 divisions brought then into this core. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. It is likely going to go ahead and put army group... Sorry, it's likely going to place the 18th army over a limit, but it's not too bad for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and have a fortified zone placed here too. These guys could really do with being rebuilt though, in fairness. What do we have here? Light woods, free. They're looking fairly good. They're looking okay. It's been this division over here that's been coming under attack fairly often, so I do want to give them a boost of strength where I can. We do have additional forces in this area, but there's not an infinite amount. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and place down another fortified zone there. Okay. But at least we do have that going. Heavy woods are good to have there. I've got to hope that this would hold. Okay. So, let's see. Been building up this position here then, so that's been quite good. This area is the one that is really under threat. The good news though is, I could fall back from the heavy woods and fall back to this position over here. The only issue with that is it would likely have an impact on the actual rails over here, but we do have rails in the area, so it's not a tremendous negative. It would shorten the line, thankfully. So kind of what I have in mind is, like, you see where we have a swamp over here. We'd be pushing into this northern area, but essentially I probably would hold onto the heavy woods for quite a while, because this is a good position to have here. There's only light woods beyond it, so it does give us a good thing to push through here. Besides when we get to the heavy woods. Yeah. But the light wood positions I'd likely fall back to, so what would go is back to here. Back to here sort of thing. Oh, okay, so ready is just essentially the default state of the unit. It just indicates that essentially the unit is ready for combat. It might not be like in the full state of combat readiness, but on paper it is ready for combat. Refit is essentially, each phase you have like the reinforcement phase where freight is taken by the unit, and it'll decide really how much, if any, that unit will get and have that freight converted into replacements. So when they're there on refit, it essentially places them a little bit higher up on the priority of receiving placements there, really. It's one of those, if you have everything on refit, it can kind of dilute that. You do tend to benefit most when you have it pretty focused. Okay. What we're going to go ahead and do then is deploy. Well, they have a fair range, but they're not infinite. What I'm going to go ahead and do then is I'm going to deploy the 290th to that position. The 217th can reinforce this position here. Now we still have that lower, but there's only the one division here at the moment. So, and over here I do have level 2. So what I'm going to go ahead and do then here is, let's see, 54, 29 on their own, 25 there. I'm considering having one of them fall back so I can actually have them in reserve there, and then at least have them begin to build up this position behind it, but I may not have that entire luxury. I was kind of hoping I could make this work, but I guess I can't exactly. So what I'm going to go ahead and do then is have the 121st committed over here then. That's going to boost that there tremendously. The 122nd can go here for the time being then. It reinforces these positions. It does mean that ideally they won't take as many attacks. They'll have a little bit of a break there for the time being, but it's only a temporary solution. We're going to have to go and get more forces over there north. So Army Group North itself is not too bad, but it's going to be the... Yeah, you can see 18th Army there. It is a little overstacked, really. Just a tad. I could place this corps directly under the command of Army Group North. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. That does decrease the... danger, I suppose you could say. Well, it decreases the overstacking, at least somewhat anyway. Yeah, the Panther line. Yeah. Now, there's going to be a few other positions where I'm going to want to have units like that dig in. We'll see about that. Like, down here is an interesting one, because we do still have quite a few Panzers. We do see forces over here, but they're not particularly strong as of now. We do see the focus has shifted over here. And I could launch a limited offensive out this way. I'm not terribly interested in those. The reason being... I'd rather do that when the when the weather has eased and the winter is over. Sorry, I said both words at the same time there. Oh dear. I would like to go ahead and have... Our third mountain is pretty interesting because it does have that high morale. They do have that pioneer battalion there. It does make me wonder who would be superior in holding a city here, really. I've got to assume it would be the actual infantry division itself. Though the mountain division obviously has the superior morale, so it's not a bad thing at all there, really. I think what I probably want to do then is have the third mountain move out, as they do have that grey morale. They also do have a few more guns there. Generally, they'll have... So you can see that we have 48 artillery, 8 heavy infantry, 45. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? Yeah, you can see how that artillery definitely differs there. But they are a pretty outstanding unit in winter. They do have a higher morale to try and make up for that. Ooh, Steel Tigers. That's what I do want to actually pick up there. As for the release date, or just how that one is, I'm not entirely sure there. Yeah, oftentimes I will know less than you guys know. I don't want to like say I'm busy, but oftentimes I feel like I live under a rock, because I just can't keep up with things sometimes. But anyhow, what I'm thinking about doing then is draw another core then, maybe another core down this way. It would be nice to have something around this way, but essentially we're going to have the, is it a third Panzer? I always forget. Yeah, the third Panzer army is going to be essentially a floating army eventually. That's what I'm kind of gearing ourselves up for. If I take a look, we still have forces over here to move to the front. Other divisions there. Anything in Warsaw. I was going to say we have the other army there, but no, we have the other corps. We are due to have another army arrive soon. Relatively soon. Let me go ahead and place... Do I have army on here? That's armoured. Army. Yeah, so turn 9 we'll have a Kempf detachment army arrive, and then we'll have... Turn 11, the 20th Mountain Army actually arrive there. So that's actually really good, because that does mean... We also do have a Sardinia Italian army there, which is interesting. That does arrive into this. It's not of any use to me there. The German-Italian Panzer Army is disbanded in North Africa. Turn 33. That's some turns away. Yeah, so... We'll have them arrive on the map relatively soon, and then especially with the 20th Mountain Army there, I love that, that's going to be very helpful. So I think what I would go ahead and do then is have the 2 additional armies head up over here to the north. The north really has had to... Well, they've had to surrender quite a lot in comparison to the other fronts in terms of actual HQ support. If I am going to have an assault over here in the north, I'm going to need the additional HQ support. We do have Army Group Center over here, which can definitely host another army. So I think what I would do then is have one army, maybe Kempf detachment to take over the command here, and then have the Mountain Army move over here to the north to work alongside the 18th Army to drive north into the Volkhov. That would be the idea, I think. Do let me know if the music's too loud. Some tracks are a little bit loud. Let me go ahead and just... Yeah, that should be better. That should be better. Okay, we'll go with that for now. We have alleviated the penalties here somewhat. I'm tempted to take the Blue Division and actually place them under the 18th Division. Sorry, into the Army Group North, I should say. So right now I do have a core on the actual core itself. Well, a penalty on the core itself. To be fair, though... Actually, no, what I could go ahead and do is place them under this core here. Which I'm going to go ahead and do. Which they go under the actual Army Group North ultimately anyway, but at least they'll be under a core there. So that is a 24th Division. Yeah, so they can go into 24th. That brings 18th Army to just being 1 over now, so at least that's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, we can work with that then at least. Can work with that. Over here, we are digging in. It may be worthwhile to have a fortified unit established in here. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. The reason being, it gives me something to actually establish these under control, but also to maintain that fort there. It could be worth to have something there, but it's not likely. That position really could do with some reinforcements, in all honesty. They are, in theory, strong on paper. But the issue is when it comes to their command here. Now, his morale isn't particularly high. It's a little bit below average. He's not the best commander. He's a pretty adequate infantry commander, but he's not the best commander. You can see that we have 7s across the board there. Yeah, he looks pretty good in fairness. I'm gonna go ahead and take Rouse Erhard. Yep, that's a solid 7 there. So that will improve their performance out here. Now, I do have a couple units I could potentially sign out here. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then is give them a Pioneer Battalion. So that brings us up to 60 over here. I could potentially give them another battalion. You can see they're doing pretty well there. That's looking pretty fortunate. There could be positions over here that could be strengthened with fortified zones, but I'm not going to go crazy with them. They are really quite useful, however. But yeah, you don't want to become overly reliant upon them. So, we do have our 20th Panzer over here. They are recovering to an extent, which is pretty good. Now, they're on reserve. It's highly unlikely that they would actually respond to anything, in fairness. But I do keep them out here because I need to have them in a city. But what I'm thinking about doing here then is actually moving the core out and having the actual Panzers move into the city there, really. The reason being is they're ultimately going to benefit more from being inside the city during the winter here. If I go ahead and take a look at the actual losses, if I take a look at the losses during the Axis logistical phase, you can see that we did lose 9 AFVs during the logistical phase, and that can be like a combination of factors, but usually that's going to come down to probably winter. You can see the units that did break down there. I go since last turn. Yeah. We had quite a few losses in the last turn, really. The Axis allies have been taking quite a bit of punishment. So, over this way. I don't really want to keep Panzers out in the field at all, really. I could probably make do by having motorized on the front, but that's not exactly an ideal situation. Though I do have infantry not far away now. For some reason I can't zoom. There we go. I can zoom again. Okay. Yeah, we do have a Luftwaffe Field Division moving to the north. We also do have the infantry here. I'm considering, because I'm going to move the forces out over here, I'm considering, in fact, they're not on the rail line right now, so we'd have to move them up to this point over here, or even up to Vilnius. And then on the rail line here, I could move them there. Or even just march them. Let's move them over here to the north. If I was to put them on the rail, yeah, they wouldn't have enough there. I think in that case I'm going to have them march to the north and just continue on that way. I'm going to have them head down... Well, actually, in fairness, they could head over here to the actual town. And then they could get on the rail, perhaps. But I am tempted to have them just continue to march out there. What I was thinking about doing is actually having them railed up. No, actually, I tell you what, in fairness, I think it probably is worthwhile just to rail them. They're not that heavy... And I do want to get infantry out here. They're not going to be ready this turn, but at least they would be ready the turn afterwards. So I think I will have them railed out, in fact. Excuse me. I could move them over there to Pskov, which would help. But they're still not going to get off the rail at this point. But I do want to try and lessen the amount of men, well, the amount of vehicles that are in this area. Which rail do I want to take? That one's more important for this area, so I think I would probably take... Oh, granted they're both important, but at least I can actually have full use of this one. Although in fairness, we have had a lot of movement this turn, haven't we? Okay. I'm going to march them. We do have clear terrain here. So I could march through there relatively well. Here we go through some clear terrain, but light woods as well. I could cut across that way, perhaps. I'm going to still be on the rail there, so if I continue along the rail, we'll be okay. So move on to that position. They can continue north, and they can continue north as well there. I do have a free floating core at the moment. That would be over here. Now, it would be potentially worthwhile to have another core out in this area. But ultimately, this corps is going to be taking care of these guys, which are going to be taking care of this Veliki Luki front over here then. So I'm going to, in fact, actually, who are you under the command of? You're under this command here. Okay. In fairness, actually, they're going to remain in position. They're going to go ahead and switch over to this command here then. So we have then... is that the 59th Corps? I forget that. Chevalier, however you want to pronounce that. He's okay. He's okay. His stats are not bad, I guess. But what we're going to go ahead and do then is have a new infantry placed under his command. So they are unlikely to be within range, so I can't switch them out into that command now. But I'm going to go ahead and take these guys, have them switched out over here. Okay. So I suppose the consideration comes into then. Do I want the mountain division in the city or do I want it in the field? The mountain division has the greater morale, which is good, but the actual infantry division has the superior artillery. I'm gonna have to leave a motorized division, I reckon, either way, just to make sure that we have enough force in, I guess. So it's a tough one, actually. I think I will leave the infantry division in there, because they do have that artillery. They should, in theory, have more anti-tank capability. They have just shy of 20 Pack 40s. Though actually these guys do have 20 Pack 40s, so they're about as well as equipped as the infantry division in anti-tank capability. But these guys do have some 50mm pack guns. These guys have instead 37mm pack guns. But they do have the 160s over here, which are shorter range. So in fairness, actually, I think they'd be better city fighters. And I think with that higher morale, they would be better. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then is, let's see. I do love myself the actual motorized corps. Sorry, the motorized forces, yeah. Absolutely do. So you belong part of 30th. You belong down here, in fact. It would be nice to have another motorized unit out here then, just to really respond to things in this area. You are already part of this one here, so that's okay. Now, let me take a look. I do have a depot here. It could be worthwhile to actually have the motorized possibly placed here on the depot. At least then I can ensure that remains there. So do have at least some freight out that way. It would provide some stiffening in the line over here, which is pretty good. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. 48. Yeah, that one can... I'd really want to go ahead and have this one move down instead down this way. Because I'm going to have one of them in reserve. But if honest, I could have one in reserve out here anyway, so... You are part of this corps. So you can move over here to the front. Which means I can actually have the corps moved over here to the front as well. Which would allow me to actually boost the capacity in this depot. But what I'm going to go ahead and do then is place the corps over here then. If I go back... So you can see here we go from 10k capacity up to 15 in theory. But we do have some damage over here to the rail line. We do have the 190 for the 57th Construction Battalions on that. What I'm going to go and do then is move the 2nd Panzer Division over here then. So they can move into the actual city. Now... These guys, I mean, we're lacking Panzers for the most part. That was to be expected. We still have Panzer 38T over here. The Panzer 38T... Oh, notice I do have the mods back on, by the way. Pretty good. Depot. I don't know. I honestly don't know if it's depot or depot. I don't know. I'll vary between them, really, at points. I'm going to go ahead and place them on reserve there. Sorry, on refit if I can. They are on a pretty major depot here. There is actually some logistics stored, so that should be pretty helpful for them. So if I go ahead and take a look over here then. Granted, you're going to have support from the division moving out here anyway, so this should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and take them, place them over here. They can be on reserve here. They're on reserve out there. As are they. So we have that core protecting this area, we have, well, support of this area, and we have a core over here supporting this area too. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 83rd Division. So now we're at 34. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and take the 83rd, move them into position here. That brings us up to 53. It may be worthwhile placing a fortified zone in there as well, but I don't think so. This area over here does need to have something. But the terrain's not particularly fantastic. It really isn't. The rough terrain there is pretty good, but yeah. I think I'd likely leave something here then to continue to dig this in here, because at least that is in the center there. Okay. Now, we do have a 30th Corps. What do I really want to do with the 30th Corps? I have a level 2 fort over here, so really I would rather have the panzers in that, so they can at least avoid the worst of the winter, but at least have that position and that position there. And it could be worthwhile to have it continue to be dug in there, considering that we do have at least it begun. But again, I do have that position there too. Sometimes it's a hard sell, but I don't think it's really going to benefit me beyond this over here. But they could be in reserve out this way. These guys could really do with some additional support. They're... yeah, especially these guys are looking fairly weak, in fact. Fairly weak. Okay. And that's a pretty rough situation to be in there. What I think I might do then is... well, I'm kind of thinking that I may move the 3rd Mounted Division up over here, then have the 218th double stack with the 93rd there. It brings them roughly up to similar numbers. Obviously, this being a Mountaineer Division should do fine. I'm thinking what I could potentially do then is definitely not move a Panzer unit in there, but I think I could get away with moving the 36th Motorized Division in there. They do have some AFE elements in there. They actually do have quite a few AFEs in fairness. That's not too bad in fact. But in fairness, the majority of their force and strength is made up by the motorized rifles. I suppose you could say the same for most of our Panzer divisions at this point in time, but they shouldn't take as much as a penalty, but they're still level 5 fort in a city, so there may be some penalties applied to them due to being in the city there, but they do have a level 5 fort. I mean, level 5 is a fucking rarity. You can't build level 5, you have to have it there at scenario beginning, so they're likely going to be fine. I'm going to go ahead and go with that plan. It does mean I can double stack over here and have this brought up to a rather a decent level of strength anyway. Of course, I would have to be like that. Ah, fuck. That scuppers that one, doesn't it? That scuppers that one. Fudge. What do we have here? Heavy woods. Ah, fuck. Had I known about that, I would have actually had the panzers deployed there, then have that infantry go north. But that do be the way the cookie crumbles. I can at least support one position. Swamp is lesser than the heavy woods, in fact. We do have the ability then to draw them back, and at least I can have them drawn back and actually given a chance to take us replacements, so I'm going to go for that. So they can go into refit. They can take up their position here. You can see they are pretty good. I'm going to give them some additional support. It's tempted to give them the infantry battalions. They are in heavy woods, however. Let me go ahead and just check on the TOE of that for just a moment here. Yeah, so they can go into reserve here. 75. I mean, we can build this up to level 2 fort in time. They're looking pretty good, in fact. So I'm going to have the 1st Panzer Division move to the front there. So they can go and refit. Well, on reserve, I should say. these fellas can just move there. Where do I have a depot? I do have another depot here, in fairness, actually. But what I'm going to go ahead and do then is move the 19th Panzer Division here as well. They can replace some reserve out here. If I could move them on there, that'd be great, but I can't. So yeah, they can go into that position for now. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at OKH. I really want to move OKH out of Warsaw, to be honest. I'll just have it moved up to Königsberg. They need to move out to the front. They need to get their asses in gear too. Now, they do have those armoured vehicles there. I don't want to have them drive out in the snow. So I think I may wait until the turn afterwards and then have them railed out once the rail line has recovered somewhat. We are going to have quite the disruption then from that, but in fairness, it may be worthwhile to have one turn of immense disruption rather than multiple turns of disruption in general. I don't know. I suppose it's one of those of like, which is ultimately going to be more painful. I suppose it would be better to do it over turns. Evidently, you can avoid the worst of it. I think I probably will opt for that. I think I'm going to have the infantry march. Infantry will suffer some attrition from said movements, but ultimately I can recover them anyway. Panzers can sit in the city. And then just await their opportunity to be railed out, really. I'm gonna have OKW moved over here to the north. Okay. I could even use the ports, in fairness. You know, I never really actually considered the ports. That may be a worthwhile idea, in fact. So I could have them possibly moved up over here to Riga instead. I never actually considered the ports, actually. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I may go for that. Yeah, like I can't move far now, but in fact I think I will go for the ports. It would lessen the amount of freight coming in over here via a port, but that's not a terribly bad idea. I could even have them moved over here to Tallinn and then railed out from Tallinn. But at least being shipped out to Riga could be a bad idea. In fact, I think I will go with that then. That's not a bad idea. I mean, they're a full strength division there, looking pretty good, looking pretty fine. Okay. Yeah, so they can sit there in Warsaw. They're also going to dig into fortifications of Warsaw, which is pretty good there. Yeah, they really are. They really are. Like, the port network is just so good. Like, if I go ahead and press 8, so we're shipping from Königsberg, Rostock to Riga, Tallinn, and this port over here, in fact, Pali. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's not a bad thing to do, then. Yeah, so for the time being, this area then is relatively okay. We do have a forces here then to make sure this lasts. I'm gonna place you here. And I could move you there. Yeah, just boost that capacity if I can. Yeah. It boosted that 15k, so not too bad. We do have a fair amount stored there. Yeah, that'll have to be as it is now then. This area over here actually could benefit from having some fortified zones. It really could. Especially for digging in the areas around Smolensk. But I'm not sure if that's worthwhile, perhaps. I need to go ahead and take a look at the actual support units I mentioned earlier. I'll go ahead and do that in a moment, in fact. There's certain positions out here, like it may be worthwhile having the fortified zones in these areas over here, just to start digging in this. But we do have a lot to really bear in mind, don't we? There's the forces over here that we need to move out. That's going to take some time. Hmm. I'm not entirely sure. It could be worthwhile constructing some fortified zones along this way. But this terrain's on the wrong side of the river there, really. Some positions are alright. Like, that has a major river around it, and I could perhaps have one there. But the rest isn't exactly ideal. I don't know how much value I'm going to get out of that. We are pushing forces up over this way anyway, so I think I'm not going to gain too much in the way of benefit from that. I think down here is not a bad idea though. Like, have the fortified zones actually around Rostov, just begin to dig in around there. We do have forces in the area, but not a tremendous amount. So I think I'm going to have them begin the process down here. At least they can help me out then. It does mean I could potentially redeploy forces elsewhere then. But yeah, I'll likely have them placed along this side of the River Don there. How you doing there, Alex? Good to have you, my man. Good to have you. Yeah, we do have the Cossacks to fall back yet. But there's a lot of forces moving up though, so that is going to be a problem soon enough. Over here we're looking pretty well. I could maybe even take another division out and move it up to the north. And I will definitely weigh that up. Okay. Overall, it's looking not too bad. It's not looking too bad. Now, let me go ahead and take a look at OKH again then. So... where are they? Ah, there we go. The Storm infantry there. Okay, so there are about 910 men there. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so there's about 910 men, but they do have the great benefit of having all those pack guns. Those are really good guns. They also do come with the Stugs as well, which is really good. But I think I probably want the assault battalions down this way. There, or even potentially along this way. Their AT guns are just so very good. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then is, in an effort to shore up this position here, is I'm going to go ahead and give it some pioneers. So there's 2 pioneers there. I could potentially give them a Panzerjäger. These are self-propelled, however. So they're AFVs technically, I think. So they may take a penalty there. I could maybe give them some flak. That's a decent way to get some 88s in there and things of that nature. We do have a mixed flak battalion. Not a full battalion, but we do have at least some in there. I do have the 181st Heavy Flak Battalion. But I'm not really facing armor, I'm facing mostly infantry here. Yeah. Yeah, it's not too early, yeah. I think I get bored out of the actual pioneers due to the additional men. They also do have their own construction value, really good construction value. So it would help me to dig in this position here all that much quicker. Yeah, they do have the flamethrowers as well. They have the satchel chargers. They do have the SMGs there. They have their own LMG cluster rifles. I mean, they're a 10-man squad, but they're a 10-man squad that's relatively well equipped. Yeah. The anti-tank mines are very good on the satchel chargers, so they tend to have a bit of everything that you need in there, really. You can see their morale's up there, and they do have that support too. They don't bring artillery to bear, but this is heavy forest, so the range is going to be decreased anyway. If I had like a foot, well, a non-propelled, I don't know how you would call it, just a traditional AT support unit, that'd be quite nice. A non-self-propelled one. Just anti-tank, that'd be quite nice, but we don't. So I'm going to go ahead and grant them the 662nd Pioneers as well. So they do have the 3 Pioneer battalions there. Which, in fairness, it does give them a tremendous boost. I mean, they only well, they have about half as many Pioneers as they do have infantry then. Which brings them up to 10k. I'm going to have them put a refit, see if I can try and draw some additional men in here. But it does bring them up. They do have a satchel charges and the anti-tank mines, but each of them is bringing a lot of construction value. They not so much, but they have pretty high fatigue, as do they. They do not, so you can see the difference in that construction value. The division itself doesn't have all that much in the way of fatigue, but yeah. So that's not too bad, I guess. That's not too bad. It doesn't bring additional equipment. It does bring additional infantry equipment, however, so... In the heavy woods, that's probably okay. Not amazing, but at least it's something. It should at least help us to dig in that a little bit more quickly. I'm going to place some additional forces in the area on reserve if I can manage it. It's not tremendously likely, however. But we work with what we've got. That's a good position there to have a fortified zone, I would say. We should have that heavy woods there, and that's a pretty commanding position there. Okay. Right. It could be worthwhile to have these ones as well. I am spending a lot of administration points this time round. I think I'm going to have these begun to be dug into. I wish we had like a contiguous line of swamp out here, but alas no. I mean, I could maybe go like that. Something like that. But I guess it's not particularly necessary. This part of the line is not under that much in the way of pressure. I could even have them actually foray out of there. We are digging in pretty well here. Once we do get up to level 3 forts, I can have one division pulled back, more than likely. And this kind of terrain would be alright with the heavy woods, more than likely. We'll take it as it comes, really. Out of here, we've moved in here to deal with this. We should be able to cut them off next turn. It may be worthwhile to move into that position there to make sure I can retain that level 3 fort, but then it is a division on their own then at that point. And ultimately then, I'm not that keen on holding it. I'm going to go for the double division rather than the singular division. As it's just in general a safer thing to do. Can I place them in the city? I can. Do note that increases our capacity from 40 to 45, which is pretty good. Okay. We do have elements of the 16th Army move into the south. I do have a Flieger division out here. They're going to be in here to dig us in. These forces could benefit from obviously having some additional men poured into them. But you need to have the stock to do that. But this situation is becoming increasingly better, or at least more manageable. It could be worthwhile to have fortified zones here just to give us something of a almost like a fire base in a sense, because we have the town over here. Alas, it's not a city. But at least it could give me something to then dig into. But again, it comes down to consideration of is it worthwhile to have? I'm not really gaining all that much because there's just the entire sea of clear terrain around them. We do have more men marching south, so that's pretty damn good. I would like to have these supported over here if I could. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then is have the elements of the 16th Army support these positions here as they make their way to the south. At least that does give me a tremendous bit of aid out here. It does really help to shore up this flank. Another alternative would be to have one of them deployed out this way. This division then could potentially... that's a bloody big division. That's because it has these units out here, which it shouldn't really do. Okay, well, they can be returned. You don't get them. Yeah. I do really need to support the Hungarians out here. I could even have the replacing of these forces on the front and have the German forces brought down here almost temporarily. I'm thinking about moving panzers out this way too. How many divisions do I have? Right. Yeah, they could really do with a sojourn down here to Kursk and pick up some additional men there. They can't move any further. Okay. They could do as well with that. They're not particularly terrible. I mean, we have a TOE at 70. I think once we do hit the spring and summer, I probably will have the TOEs increase once again, really. The reason being, the weather is a lot easier on our logistics, and we are going to be moving into a situation where we are going to be going from defensive to the offensive, ideally. Now, as to whether I do that across the board or whether I do it army by army, but I think it depends, really. It's a really good case to have it done army by army, because essentially you are funneling resources into an army then. And if it's an assault army, then it's going to benefit from that. But it's one of those things, I do wonder if it was worthwhile setting everybody down to 70, because I could have potentially done it army by army, as I said. Like, I could have had it done in the Volkhov, in the north around Leningrad, perhaps, or at least on the Volkhov River itself, had them reduced down to 70. But then it's one of those where you're kind of in a position of where it's hard to do it in that way, I guess you could say. Because you're like, well, do I really want to diminish the strength of my forces across the board? But if you do it as just across the board in general, everybody's working from the same hymn sheet, I suppose you could say. And then you increase it, so, I don't know. I guess it's one of those where it's a philosophical argument. I'm not sure. Okay. I do have at least the 27th Panzer and the 10th Motorized aid out this way. And it is a tremendous bit of aid, I must say. It's a tremendous bit of aid. I do need to rectify the situation out here. It is tempting to potentially consider ceding these positions, really. And maybe just shortening the line. Granted, I do lose. I mean, I would lose this, I guess. I mean, this position here is a little bit awkward, because I do have level 2 Van, I do have level 2s over here, which are pretty good. Well, I mean, you have enough assets in the pool to begin with before we put more in there. So if I go ahead and show... We'll go for active pool. Artillery is one of those things that's always going to be tough. Because we always do have a bit of a lack of artillery. But it's a better situation than it would be normally. But even then, there's still not a huge amount in there. But like for the rifle squads, we have 1421 just sitting there. There's 1775 cavalry, 288 security squads there. A bunch of motorized. A couple Panzer Grenadiers, and so on and so forth. We do have quite a glut of pioneers, which is actually pretty cool there. Even a couple Panzer Pioneer. These guys are good because they do have 2 LMGs. They also do have the SDKFC transport, so they are armoured, so that's pretty awesome. It makes them a pretty devastatingly deadly unit. Right. Now, right now, you're assigned to the 2nd Army. I'm going to have you switch over to the 5th Panzer. We have the 54th Panzer Corps here. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then is retain the 2nd Panzer forces in this area then, and have the 5th Panzer forces move down here to the south, in fact. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking that rather than have these men out here on the front, because they're going to just simply get smashed again. This rail line's already, well, it's already cut in fairness over here, so it doesn't really matter. This point is pretty much kind of buggered. It's good to have the river, but they are across the river. And they are going to be coming from the south anyway, so it's like, well, to what end do I gain there? I think I'd be better off just having the men fall back and really just increase the density. It would allow me potentially something of a reserve, and if I could manage it. Yeah, I mean, who came under attack over here? So these guys didn't come under attack, so they could actually help us form a fairly decent line out this way. So yeah, we can work with that. We do have these forces. Now, they're still going to have that combat prep, which is good. I may even have them triple stack out here, really. They do have a bit of construction value, but not a huge amount, really. And they're not that particularly strong, so I think I probably would want to have additional support there, really. I've got one Panzer there, one Panzer there. It does leave this area somewhat open, but I do have the forces that are going to be moving up out this way anyway to help secure that. These forces over here are going to be coming up this way, so we're looking alright there. The Romanians are going to be pulling back, really. I think have them drawn behind the line if I can. Have the German forces out on the front so they can at least take the brunt of the attack and be better able to withstand it. I do need to cover the Romanian forces. They definitely do have the capability to still contribute to this fight. And they did do a great job. I mean, in fairness, they did get smashed around the turn before, I think it was. But in fairness, they did do a tremendous job in just simply delaying the Soviets. I know that doesn't sound like a tremendous big deal. But in fairness, it did stop them from advancing too far. And it did give our German forces in the south a actual full turn of reprieve. Where you can see, yeah, we had the attacks over here. Oh, was it this turn that we got? I think it was the turn before, in fact. Yeah, you can see there, 646 tanks. So they're never going to be able to stop that. They don't really have that much in the way of anti-tank equipment to begin with. Was it this turn? I think it might have been this turn. I think it was this turn. I can't bloody recall now. I think, oh, yeah, it was this turn, actually. Yeah. Yeah, they got hit pretty hard here. But you can see these German forces actually did manage to gain that respite. I need to have forces actually organise in a defensive position along here. But yeah, it's all about buying time for our forces here, really. Trying to move as much freight down here to the Donetsk Basin. It is going to take a little bit of time. We do have the SS forces moving out, so we have Levenstadt and Lord Hitler moving to the front. As are Totkov and Das Reich. As is the SS Panzer Corps. But again, that's going to take time. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then, I'll be able to bring forces up over this way, I'd imagine, perhaps. Maybe even just have the Romanians actually positioned out here just to act as a temporary block while I do shift forces. I would like to have some infantry to help support them. But again, I would rather have a solid hold here and a solid hold here. And then, if you have to have a weakness, it's better to at least have 2 strong points, or at least have a strong point. You can't be strong everywhere, that's a problem. But if I can project... Well, if I can secure this position and then project power outwards, afterwards, then that's not too bad. But I think we do fall back here. The Soviets do have to push forward, then they inevitably do lose some movement points in doing that. But yeah, Italian troops are just... Oh, they're actually a bad example. They're actually really quite good. These guys still have 51 morale, but you can see that 45 morale base is... They're actually really... That's actually German level morale. Okay, I'm trying to show how poor the Italians are, but I keep finding good Italians, yeah. Even here, not particularly spectacular, but they are going to get worse. 40 morale is not a lot. At all. So I think I'm going to fall back over here. I'm just going to move them here for the moment. Okay. They do have some pretty damn good morale, in fairness. I'm going to have the Hungarians fall back too. So, we could go like that, but I can at least maintain that position here and have a natural curve. What temperatures past the freeze zone? Oh man. These are the questions. Of the Star Trek Enterprise, or the USS Enterprise. Okay. Yeah. If I have... like so. I really do like these mountaineers. Yeah. The cavalry does have 51 morale. That's... I can love that thing. But I do like them, actually, because they are at least armoured. They're not armoured well, but at least they do have some armour, and they do bring an MG. Or 2 MGs, I should say. So then, as like useless as they look against armour, and they are useless against armour, they're actually pretty useful. I mean, I would like these as Japan in War of the Pacific, because they do have a place. Like, playing the Japanese in War of the Pacific Admiral's Edition definitely does teach you that everything armoured is still armoured and still has use. It's just not going to be fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to move that there. And then at least I do have the opportunity to some extent, recover the Italians, or at least give them a small reprieve here. But at least I do have the actual panzers able to support them. I could even go ahead and actually place the Italians on top of the actual panzers here. It isn't going to do a great deal of work for the panzers, but it is going to do a lot of work for the Italians, I can tell you that one for sure. These aren't the strongest panzer divisions in all honesty, so I think I probably would want to have another panzer division sit on top. Yeah. I could have another 2 panzer divisions there. Let's take a look at what we can do with the Hungarians then. So in fairness, I didn't have to deploy that one there, but I still think it's worthwhile to have. As much as a shame as it is, I'm going to have to pull back. Yeah, these Italians actually do have a great morale, in fairness. I do have to worry about this gap here. Okay. Now I'm going to have these men actually placed on the front line here. Yeah, they can't move too far. They can move over here. Because they actually have combat. That's going to help. I could move them here as like a reserve. Yeah, they can definitely move there. That's good. Well, in fairness, actually, I'll keep the 20th there. Sorry, yeah, 20th there. 19th and the 12th can move over here. I'm gonna need to have like a German division around here, aren't I? Okay. Though it's tempted to move them over here because I at least like do have that natural defense. But I do want to retain this actual line here if I can. I'm going to go ahead and have that disbanded out here, as is this one to be. Okay. I am gonna go ahead and have these panzers supported. And this is it. That one panzer division had had more than the 2 combined. I don't want to have my strength just squandered, really. I can bring forces around this way to shore us up, so we should be okay there. But, yeah, it does mean I have at least a reserve now. I'm going to quickly address how I'm going to deal with this problem here. I do have a other panzer division here. The other panzer division could act as a reserve in this area here, in fairness, but it... yeah, let's see. We have 3rd Panzer Corps here. We have... So, is 3rd Panzer Corps here? Where's 3rd Panzer Corps? So, 3rd Panzer Corps being down this way, then. Okay. So, 3rd Panzer Corps is going to move up this way. The army is very useful to have, in fairness, but I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is... That is on a double line. So I'm going to move the Hungarian army there. Bring up the 3rd Panzer. Over this way too. Okay. I'm going to take a look at their commands, in fact, but yeah, we'll sort that. So again, I'm going to have the ability to put a reserve over here. It's not going to be much of a reserve, but at least it is bloody something. Now, I could even potentially triple stack here. And I could actually position out here and have the German division sit on top. Which is an option. It does mean I can have a 16th then come in to just support these positions and have them established properly while we focus on here as well. I could even have the Panzer Division actually support this area too. We do then have at least the 27th and the 10th Motorized to float around here, as is the 8th SS Cavalry able to do so. The 25th and just essentially the 54th Panzer Corps can then shift down to south here too. We are now finally bringing steel to match steel, I suppose you could say. Which is going to feel quite good. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame to have seeded these positions, but it didn't gain me anything, really. It just gave me potentially doom. So, let's see here. I've got quite a few cores, so I can actually build up a tremendous amount of capacity upon this line. Which is not too bad in fairness. I do want to retain that, I really do, but I don't know if it's worth it at cost. That brings me up over there. Difficulty is going to be I'm not going to be able to get all that much in the way of capacity out here. It may be better to move them onto this line. Can they do that? No. Yeah, they're not ready. Okay, so really at this point it's not about capacity, it's about just really bringing the men up to scratch. Okay. The the Hungarian division's actually not too bad there. Like their armored fighting complement is a bit of a mixed bag, but these Nimrods are always awesome. They're always pretty awesome. They do have pretty good range, and obviously being a self-propelled flak, they're actually pretty fine for that role. We do have a Toldies. Now the Toldies is superior to the actual Italian tank that we saw beforehand. And it does have a 20mm gun. Not exactly anything spectacular, but it has a slight bit more armor. It is at least able to contribute in a little bit of way. And then we do have a T-38, which does blow the Toldi 2 out of the goddamn water, to be honest. Have Terrans over here. They do have a 40mm gun, a little bit better, a little bit more armoured. They do have the MGs there, able to contribute. Terran 2 has a 75, so at least approaching something comparable to the Panzer 38T. It's only taken a long time to get there, but at least we're there. It's still something. Still armoured support, still a gun at the end of the day. Not an amazing one, but at least it is something. So I'm going to go ahead and have them positioned here then. The German division can go ahead and actually support that then. And that does actually put a decent block over here. I've got the Italians that can actually float around and actually support us out here too. Which is at least something. As to how I want to do it, I want to have them really on here. But I may just have to pick a position. They need to refit, don't they? Yeah. They're really in a bad shape. I need to reorganize the actual commands in fairness. This area just needs to dig in. I mean, the 44's looking good, but these guys need to dig in over here. And I would like to actually have the 16th Army facilitate that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and have them deployed for that. They can head out that way then. Actually, no, which group are they part of? Oh, they're part of another corps, in fact. Yeah, and this unit could even be moved out here to act as like a reserve, in fairness. 44. Yeah, I just need to dig in here. Once we get some level 3 forts out here, we'll look pretty good, in fairness. That will be nice. That corps could handle more men there, in theory. I may go ahead and actually have these Panzer divisions placed directly under the command of the 5th Panzer Army. The 1st Panzer Army is in an interesting state right now. But in fairness, I could have the 1st Panzer Army just simply move up that way. Do I want to bring 5th Panzer Army down this way, or do I just want to have 5th Panzer Army support this area in particular? It may be worthwhile just to have 5th Panzer support here for the time being, really. They could even be shifted out to this area as well, in fairness. At least then I could put an early check on any advances into this area. But I need to have something as like an actual response, as like an actual offensive punch. I need to maintain forces actually in reserve too. So it may be that the corps moves in fact out here towards Kharkov. They are below TOE there. I could bring the 25th up to 16,000 men then. Großdeutschland is actually also below their strength there. They should be up at 18. So I do have a relatively stable situation over here for now. What do we have as part of that? Just the 2... Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that. I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to go ahead and actually, though, have that artillery assigned out here while we are here. Like, these guys are just lacking artillery. Now, granted, they are commanding the panzer forces here too, but these guys certainly need to have artillery support. You're commanding there. Okay. I may shift you up that way. Okay. They don't need to have that small. Okay. Yeah, they have more artillery. As do they. So I could actually bring these corps both up to 6 artillery. So... one element can go to the 13th, which is going to be this one here. They're going to receive a lesser artillery unit. It's only another 9 guns, but at least it's another 9 guns. The 7th Division there is going to receive the actual artillery battalion. Howitzer battalion, which is actually a few more guns. We also do have a 210mm there. Yeah, just the 9 210s actually. I thought it was like 12 other guns, but no, it's just 9 210s. But in fairness, I say just 9 210s. That's a bloody effective gun. So that can go to the 7th. Like so. Okay, so Großdeutschland can move down here. Now I'm going to have Army Group B. Now that's at 55k already. Now, Kharkov, due to the amount of rail lines, due to the amount of rail yards it has, it's always going to be up there at 60k anyway. So really, where do I want to have another 60k depot established? That'd be a good idea. What out this way wouldn't be a bad idea in fairness, just to really boost the capacity. But due to the actual way the rail lines work, it's not ideal. This is up at 40k. So what I could potentially do here then... I could really do a more capacity out there in fairness. But it is a bit of a risk. And it is only on a single line, so there's only so much capacity you can actually have out there reasonably. It could be worthwhile to have more capacity just driven out down this way in fairness. We do have a decent bit of capacity, but not as much as I would really prefer. Tough question. Oh, these falls need to be changed. I just established these new depots, so they are going to be changed out. But where do I want to actually have the army group? Now, they're commanding... What are they commanding? They're commanding... Oh, they're commanding the 2nd Panzer Army, as well as the actual Axis allied armies here, aren't they? Okay. I probably want to have the 2nd Panzer Army just placed under command then... Well, actually, no, it's an army group, isn't it? Not an army. Never mind. And that is the command of Maximilian. Yeah. Can I establish one there? I can. That is at the centre of a crossroad, so that's not a bad position. But in fairness, it is a bit of a compromised position right now. That's not the Italian army move there. Right, there we are. So they can be set to refit there. Now, in terms of stored freight, we only have 280 stored here right now, so not a lot stored there. I do have the other army over here in fairness. So I think I may place them down here on the actual line. Well, at least on the city of Belgorod. It will boost that up to 60k. So, at least that's something. It is a bit of a worry to have them deployed there, but it does bring capacity up. Reasonably, anyway. Maybe I want to move the army back down there, but at least I do have 2 armies there to bring that up to 50k as well, so at least that's something. Now, we have these forces over here then, so what we're going to go ahead and do then is have the 25th Motorized and Großdeutschland moved out this way. I think I'm going to go ahead and place them on higher priority. I do want to have them refitted so we can actually have them here as part of the response. That's going to be ideal. I'll likely place in this gap then... It'd be nice to have some Remainians out there, but I don't think I have Remainians of strength really. That support unit, that's going to get smashed. Yeah, I may just simply be better off bringing the Romanians down here. I don't know. I need to have something cover this area. Gonna take some effort though to sort this out. God, look at how few guns they have. They bloody need them. They have rebuilt though. But yeah, they need those guns. Right. Having well, Croatians over here isn't exactly ideal. So many units. Some of these Panzer divisions aren't like the others. I mean, 16th and 14th, well, yeah. They're not looking tremendous. They really are not. I'd be quite tempted to actually just send them back to reserve there, really. Their numbers have been really, really quite heavily smashed. 6 pounds is fine. Or even they could be sent back over. It may be better to just have them sent back over here to like Kharkov and Belgorod. And then at least they can rebuild slowly but surely in the field. Or at least they're still in the field and they actually are able to then dig in the positions over here at Belgorod and so on. So I guess I'll go for that one. We do have Viking over here, which is a bloody good unit. Ultimately, the SS Panzer Corps is about, I guess it's about 2 turns away from being really active in the area. They're going to be ultimately headed out this way, so it's not too long before they're out here. Yeah, 10 tanks does not... I mean, is it even tanks? I think it may... Oh no, we've got 10 Panzer IIs. Okay. I tell you, that gun though does make the tall dudes look like crap. Yeah. So I've got 2 Panzer divisions with about 20 Panzer IIs between them in 1943. Not especially amazing there. Not especially amazing. 6 Panzer is in a much healthier situation. Not a perfect situation, but a healthier situation. Ah, gosh, that's so bad. I've got a lot of these regiments over here, which are a bit of an oddity, but they're bloody well useful. I feel like what I may go ahead and do is actually have the Romanians move down here to the south if I can manage it, and then have the German forces over here. At least there's some actual defenses down here for them to work with. They could have the regiments to support them to a degree. Yeesh. That division needs to go north. Okay. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of forces over here that do need to be refitted where they can. So in fairness, I may want to actually go ahead and take the 4th Panzer Army and try and have them actually given time to refit down this way, perhaps. Yeah. As long as I have 2 infantry divisions in each hex, then that's at least something. I may have to go for just a checkerboard faction deployment as well. Then rather than 2 hexes in 2 divisions per hex. In 3 hexes, you could have like 3 divisions in 2 hexes, and then a gap. And at least that actually could have probably fare better. Likely gonna have to go for that. Yes. This is nasty though. This is absolutely nasty. I can't get them across the river. Okay. God. There's so many units over here to like try and corral into shape. I think I'm going to have the Romanians move down this way. If it looks like I'm just kind of placing them here ad hoc, it is kind of, it kind of do be like that. But I think I'm going to go ahead and bring the Romanians down this way. And at least... oh, I don't know. I don't really have anything in the way of confidence in them, really. But needs as must, really. But frankly, the German threat... Sorry, the Soviet threat's over here. It is coming this way, but at least I do have... It's a shorter front. I can have them at least concentrated behind the River Don. So at least I have that to work with. I could then have the 17th Army move north then, which does mean I could elongate the line here perhaps, or even just create some depth, which is a pretty bloody big deal. Yeah. I'm going to keep a German division there, really. Well, that's it, exactly, yeah. May have a German division there, really, on this point. We'll see what we can do. If anything, it'd be better off just doubling the Romanians up if I could. Essentially, the idea is I can give the Romanians a bit of a reprieve and try and consolidate their numbers here somewhat. Then have the German forces take over this, really, rather than having the Romanians move down here where they're going to get smashed. It's not really worth it, to be honest. I do have these German infantry regiments over here that could support. Spotted down here. I kind of get rid of these here now, but that's fine. It does mean I can have the German infantry move to the north then. I could take the 17th Division there and move the 6th Army along. So I think that's going to be the way I'm going to go with it. We'll need to have these motorized really as reserve, but we'll just try and work with it really. Ah, Christ. Some of these divisions really are not in good shape. Like, they don't have that many guns there. Now, let's see. Before I establish a new position, I need to make sure I've got an old position actually filled properly. I know these are triple stack, but it does mean that this is likely to possibly be able to hold. I don't know. I know it's wishful thinking, like, but still. Okay. I don't need to worry too much about freight down this. Well, I mean, I do and I don't, but I want really more troops to dig in. If that makes sense. Then I can also move the Romanian corps in there. Yeah, like, these divisions need to be rebuilt. There's simply no excuse for it, but kind of have to make do with what you have sometimes. It would be nice having a depot. I need quite a few depots out here just simply to aid in the process of rebuilding. I think what we're going to do then is try and fill these up here. Yeah, like, these are looking great. They're bloody not, are they? Like, I need to protect the actual rail line here. These regiments can help. Like, they certainly can help. Oh, we're over time, actually. Whoops. That's my bad. I don't know if there's anybody on afterwards, actually, so I better call it here. But there we go. So thank you very much for watching there, ladies and gents. Hope you've enjoyed it. Essentially, what we're going to go ahead and do then is... I'm going to have the Romanians shift down here to the south then. We've consolidated over here to an extent. I still have some forces to move around over here, but we are consolidating to an extent. We have a bit of a rainbow going on there. Almost like a skittle. Here, there's likely going to be some space here, but there's not a huge amount I can do. But frankly, I just need to have the infantry stack up over here, then have the motorized forces kind of deploy out that way. And then at least in that manner, we can try and buy time until the actual SS Panzer Corps arrives, and obviously the forces of the 5th Panzer Army can really come into effect out here. Because I do have 25th Motorized Grossdeutschland out here. If they can recover to their full strength, and that does bring 2 very strong motorized divisions back into play. We have our Panzer divisions, and granted, I could have had them double stacked, but I decided to go for triple stack. The reason being is it establishes a strong position there, a strong anchor that I can actually use there. So we have that. So thanks for watching. I am Asai, and I shall see you guys in the future. Do check me out on YouTube at XTRG, but I will be streaming on Twitch in the future from now on, and then having videos uploaded to YouTube. I'm going to break them up into smaller parts for people, really, because that seems to be the preferred viewing. I think maybe about half an hour, maybe an hour or something at most. We'll see. Until next time, thank you, and take care. Goodbye for now.